Welcome to today's episode of the Heaven and Elle podcast. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Itchy Soul Playground and Youier, and I am delighted to share today's episode with you. Yes, I say that a lot. Today's episode was one of those where I remember last night as I was falling asleep going, okay, God, we don't have a topic for the podcast for tomorrow. I mean, the overarching topic is always love, isn't it? It's the Heaven and Elle stories. It's the stories of love, the things that happen in day-to-day life, and those reminders of God's love. However, I can't just sit here every episode and go, love, 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 love. I could, but I don't imagine that would be terribly encouraging or particularly helpful. So as I was drifting off to sleep, I was like, okay, God, we don't really have a topic for the podcast for tomorrow. And we still didn't. And I woke up, okay, what are we doing? And I was looking around, and when you're trying to sort of like notice stuff to see whether God's going, ding, ding, that thing there. Nothing. And then I was just sort of sat there drinking my coffee and reflecting on, well, what do we do when we're not sure? How do we show up when things feel uncertain? Ideally, God helping us, you be Youier. Full to the top with God's love and just show up. And then suddenly God went, you got it. I'm like, what do you mean I've got it? Like, that's what you're going to talk about today. I was like, okay then. So today really, I feel like there's two parts to today. Part number one is inspired rather randomly by Love Island. Love Island is a bit like when I used to eat meat. If I used to eat a hot dog, I'd feel a bit dirty because it's full of like really not high quality meat. I'm not saying that the Love Island men and ladies in there are not high quality. I don't mean that. Hear me out. What I would say though is it does frustrate me that they're all young and pretty and of a certain size and shape, shall we say. It's not reflective of real life. And so my concern, if I was to look at it too deeply, would be, okay, this is the standard that we're teaching our teenagers and young people that they need to live up to. So I have a bit of a torrid relationship. However, it's quite well produced in as much that they leave you with cliffhangers. I started watching it a few years ago with one of my offspring. It was during a time in her life when she was just sort of struggling, and it was an easy, no stress way just to spend time together, have something to talk about that wasn't the stuff that was bugging her. That was several years ago now, and then I haven't watched it for many years. And then this year I was like, oh well, it's summer, it's relaxed, let's watch it. And so I did. And yesterday or the day before, there's one chap in there, and he's been going along, everything's nice, happy as Larry, and then he came up against difficulties. And this is the second time it's happened. Stuff has happened. Basically, there's a vote. Us watching it on the other side, if you have the app, you can vote for your favourites. It's really very not well structured. It's a complete mental health disaster. I'm just going to put that out there. And they are trying to do more to support people's mental health as they come out. However, my point is, for the second time, this young chap was in the bottom three of the public vote and was faced with the reality that for whatever reason, people didn't like him. They didn't like him. It called into question his relationship with the young lady that he's coupled up with. And as a result, the whole thing went and imploded. And so it reminded me this morning as I was drinking my coffee that when we come across stuff that either maybe we're showing up and being ourselves. Now, I don't know whether this chap is actually being himself. He's probably playing a game and putting on being who he thinks he needs to be. And we all know how that works out. Shoulds are not good. But if you show up in life and you are being you, and you come up against criticism or conflict, it can cause you sometimes to go, either shrink back or react out. And it reminds me of that there's a saying that, like, whatever, when you bump into stuff, whatever's in will spill out. Like if I'm carrying coffee and someone bumps into me, coffee's going to come out. If I had a glass of water and someone bumped into me, water's going to come out. And so ideally, if you come up against life, what comes out, what does that look like? And so part of this for me was reflecting on this is me personally, and so please know that I'm saying this to myself, not just to you, but I felt nudged to share this with you today. How do I react when life is difficult? What comes up? What's my instinctive reaction? And ideally, God helping you, our instinctive reaction is love. That at our very core, we are made for love. We are made to be slap bang in the centre of God's love. So ideally, I'm not saying that we're going to love whatever the conflict is or whatever the difficult stuff is, but ideally, God helping us when we bump up against stuff, love comes up. So there is that piece to it. The other side to it was to do with when you don't know what you're doing, or when stuff, maybe you're either waiting on God for the next step, or whether you're just walking through life and like, I don't know, what do we do then? And again, it comes back to love. What is the piece that you can always do? And again, I keep saying God helping us, because I've said that several times in this even in this episode. I don't want anyone to think that you are called to willpower your way to love. I'm not suggesting you slap a smile on your face, say, hey, everything's fine, and just deny the reality of what's going on around you. It's not about that. This is about you stepping into today. And when you're not sure, you ask God. When you just feel like, you ask God. Can you see a theme here? That's the whole essence of the Youier book. Really, is my prayer for it, is particularly for people who have never being told that they can have actual conversations with God. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but I remember times when you'd read the Bible and like one of the people in there was talking to God, and God said this and God said that, and I'm like, how is that possible? It's completely possible. We are made for that relationship piece. And so when you go in, if you step into, whether it's today or the next day or whenever it comes, if you're just feeling like, I don't know what to do, be love. And when you don't know what that looks like, ask God to help you. You don't have to willpower your way through this. And yes, of course, there are going to be times when you don't react with love. Let's be honest. There are going to be times, like I've lost count of the number of times when my youngest daughter in particular, it's late at night and I'm a bit grumpy because I'm not a night owl. I like being asleep at a reasonable time. And she is a night owl, and she has this tendency to want to engage me in really big conversations when I'm really, really tired. And I'm like, can we not just like park this until tomorrow when I've had a sleep? So sometimes we don't always react with love. We don't always react in the best way, because we're humans, and we are humans living in this world, and we're battling those enemy forces that we've talked about before. But remember, and actually this comes up in today's Holy Spirit Love Note, so if you're not signed up for that, and you're watching this like live now, well, actually, the people who are here live now are already signed up for it. But if you're not signed up for the Love Notes, do, because it comes up today. And I should just say this: the reminder that any whisper you have of condemnation, of guilt, or look, see, you messed up again, that is a lie. Yes, you've made a mistake. Mistakes happen. I'm not saying that, but that piece that wants to make you paralyzed by all the stuff that you did wrong, the stuff that wants to have you feel down and and I can't talk to God about this until I get my act together piece, that is a lie. The enemy would love to stop you from talking to God. And so just that reminder piece as well, those times when you do mess up, because we all mess up, we all make mistakes, but that's what forgiveness is for. And sometimes that's about seeking the forgiveness of the person that we've hurt, in day-to-day life. Sometimes that's just as simple as chatting to God about it. You know what's going on inside your heart. And of course, He knows your heart anyway. It's not like you're telling Him something He doesn't know. But there's a big difference in relationship when think about this in your human interactions. You might know that someone you care about is feeling a bit like off colour, shall we say. And you say to them, are you okay? Yep, fine. Okay. They're not fine, but because they don't want to engage you in that conversation, you can't support them in the way you might otherwise. But then if they say, yeah, not really, and then they share their heart with you, they're telling you stuff that you already knew, but it allows you to engage them. And the same is true for God as well. Yes, He is amazing and knows all this stuff, but when you engage Him in that conversation, it unlocks that relationship piece, which is ultimately what you were born for. So I hope today's episode will be sort of some encouragement to you, just for those reminders when you don't know and when you're not sure. And as always, I would encourage you, talk to Holy Spirit, explore and ask Him, what do you want to do? What do you want me to do with what I've heard today? And listen and hear what comes up for you. But in the meantime, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to share this episode with you. I shall be back on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.